Hey everyone, welcome back. It is Freestyle Friday 2020. Happy New Year. I know you guys haven't seen me for a while, just heard my voice, but there's my face. I'm still here in the new year. Okay, so today for Freestyle Friday, I was making the overview video and I realized that I actually have a resource that would make this even more usable in folks' classrooms. So my opening note here is actually more to teachers than to students. So I'm gonna be going over the story arc steps, satisfying storytelling using this little guy. Now, no problem at all if you just want to draw one on a piece of paper and fill it in as I go, but I do have this handy dandy free worksheet that you could print off and then complete as I go over today's lecture, and that you can use as reinforcement for other stories that you're teaching, because these basic story steps are the same for so many of the works of literature that we're teaching. So if you want this guy, the link will be down there. And then I was thinking, it doesn't just make it a one-off. I actually have another lesson that would be really useful for modeling this. So maybe you want to use today's Prezi lecture that I'm going to get into in just a second, and you can show that video or you can just replicate that kind of idea. But then you would want kids to practice it. And I actually, over in my online shop, have a free copy of Edgar Allan Poe's Cask of Amontillado. This guy right here. The story's in public domain, so I'm actually able to include like a full text copy in my resource, which you gotta love. Super creepy things happening as one victim is lured to his doom down in the catacombs. But after you've read the story, and this is free in my shop, like I said, you could then have the kids answer the questions, right? We kind of dig in. You could use these as stations. You could use them just as discussion. You could use it as in-class work, you know, whatever you want for that. But then the way this is relevant to this guy is because there's a lot of paper coming at my face. I'm gonna get a paper cut. Then you can actually have the kids break down the story steps that Poe uses in Cask of Amontillado using the storytelling arc. So all of these items are available, no charge to you. You do have to set up a TPT account over on teacherspayteachers.com. Again, I'll put the link down there, but then you can download all that stuff and use it in your classrooms. Again, this opening note was more for the teachers than for the kids. If you're a kid watching this, I love you so much. I think it's great that you're here. You could download a copy too and use it for your own, edification. Was that a vocab word? I think we had edification already this year. Hey, it's all coming full circle. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking here. I'm gonna cue up the overview video that I just made for you. Let's go, Freestyle Friday 2020, making it happen. Love you guys, let's go. All right, guys, today we're going to talk about the storytelling arc, which is a really successful pattern if you are writing any stories, if you're doing film scripts. This is a really satisfying pattern to modern American audiences because we always love that happy ending. Modern storytellers tend to play with this arc a little bit, and they might switch things up, and I'll talk about that towards the end. But let's understand the basic bones of this before we go around rearranging things. All right, so if you are taking notes along with me and you want to hit pause, you can draw this like little peak or shark fin looking thing, and you can do your 9 little dots and then fill them in with the details as we go, or you can just listen to me talk about it. Whatever you like, I'm cool with. All right, so first up, we have the exposition. So exposition is the main character protagonist's ordinary life at the beginning of the story. Like, what's up with this person? What is their day-to-day, existence? What time period are we in? What area of the world are we in? So we have setting, we meet the people in this person's life. And so exposition is the first part of chapter 1, but then very quickly we're going to have number 2. A conflict is going to be introduced. Something is going to change in that protagonist's ordinary life that's going to set this story in motion. And it doesn't matter if it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just going to be a change. So depending on what type of story you've got kind of depends on what the change element's going to be. So if we're reading a teen romance, it may be that the kid spots the new kid that arrives in biology class, and hubba hubba, the little heart bubbles are popping over his head. And so now the conflict is the, warm, mushy feelings for the new girl. Or if it's an adventure story, like it's the kids find the treasure map, or a pirate finds the treasure map, and now the adventurer is off to go find that buried treasure. Or if it's a drama, there's a super cool, super spy agent guy, and he's going into the CIA, and that's his ordinary life. And then all of a sudden he gets the call that the president's daughter has been kidnapped, and now the, action is underway. So the next section, 3, 4, 5, leading all the way up to 6, is what we call the rising action. And this is the bulk of the story, the longest part. Probably a good half to 3/4 of the story is all rising action. It's all the stuff, all the steps along the way of this adventure or this drama that are leading the protagonist to get to that final climactic moment. So there will be things that happen, and each step along the way leads to the next thing. And all the way along, the protagonist is learning important things that he or she will need to know in order to ultimately be successful in this final climactic moment. So this is the moment that we're waiting for. We've been reading the story all along, and we're waiting for, if it's a romance, for the couple to get together. And often it's, it's at the prom after a big misunderstanding, and now they're arguing in the parking lot, and then it starts to rain. But then they finally resolve their issues and they start kissing. And I write always in the rain. That's symbolism we've talked about also. Adventure, they find the treasure, or they find the empty treasure box, but they find the knowledge of the, awesome adventure they have, or whatever it is. If it's the drama, the kidnapped daughter of the president is rescued, but only after a chase in the rising action along the rooftops of Rome, right? There's always some like dramatic leaping from one building to another. Okay. But whatever it is, the climactic moment happens, and we as the reader or the movie watcher are satisfied because we got what we were hoping to see. But we're not done yet. Number 7 is falling action. So this is where all the loose ends of all the side plots or side characters are tied up. Like maybe you're wondering, hey, whatever happened to Uncle Jack? Well, we find out what happened to Uncle Jack in falling action in number 7. And then 8 is often the end of the story. It's the resolution. Life now returns to normal, or the new normal, really, for our protagonist, who has grown in the adventure. I wrote here, it's this long passage, but basically it's like, notice how and I'll show you when we zoom out of the little arc here. At step 8, the protagonist is at a higher level than he or she was at the exposition, because the idea is that our characters will grow through these adventures and these experiences that they have. If your character stays flat and doesn't learn anything, then what's the point, right? We want them to grow and become wiser than they were before. Step 9 is not always included, and so that's why I put it in the brackets here. It's called the denouement. And the denouement is basically what happens after story. Sometimes there's a little bit of extra information. Sometimes we get 10 years later. Or if we're watching a film, they do, 5 years later, here's where all these characters are. And you kind of laugh if it's a, teen comedy, that sort of thing. Sometimes called the epilogue also, if it's a full book. So there you go. There is your arc. And you can see here how our character starts here at this lower point, but through the actions and activities ends up at a higher point here. And that's really why we read stories, because we want to see how characters are challenged, how they rise to meet those challenges, and how they are improved by the process, which, by the way, my friend, is exactly what we're all doing in our human lives. We are facing challenges, experiencing, we're either failing or succeeding, but we're always learning along the way. All right. Modern storytellers like to take this storytelling arc and turn it on its head a little bit. So sometimes you'll have, we start right here before the climactic moment, and then we go all the way back in flashback, and then we get caught up, and then we have this, catching up. Or sometimes we've had, we're at the end of the story, everything is resolved, and now we go back to the beginning and tell the story. So you can play with this. If we were face to face, we would play with these ideas and write some short stories of our own. If I were doing a creative writing class with you, how rad would that be? I'd have you write your story, one, using the traditional, very satisfying storytelling arc, and then I'd have you write it again, switching up the order, switching up maybe perspective. So that could be kind of a fun way to do. So if you're into that sort of thing, play with this idea, plot out your story on the arc, and then see if that's the best way to tell your story. Oftentimes it is. It's very satisfying to your audience, but sometimes it's fun to play with the rules and break the rules once you know them. All right, you guys, that's it for this week. I hope you had a beautiful week. I will see you guys on Monday with mechanics, usage, and grammar work. Always that proofreading work every Monday. That's how we get the week started. All right, I'll see you guys then. Have a great one. Bye.